crafters, welcome back to another segment of KISS, Keep It Simple Sylvia. Today is the first Friday in November and we're going to begin a whole new project for the month. We're going to be making some holiday decorations. One of the things that I like to do is I like to make wreaths. Wreaths are real easy to make and a lot of fun. And just little Sylvia history here. Years ago, I was in data processing. It used to be called data processing. Now it's called IT. And I was born and raised in Detroit, Michigan, and I went to Western Michigan University. And IBM had a headquarters downtown Detroit, and they were offering to teach computer programming classes. And when I was at Western, I'd taken a Fortran class and I just loved it. And so I decided that's what I wanted to do. So I quit Western and I went to IBM and I was taught assembler type languages like BAL, SPS, and autocoder, and we just got a little bit into COBOL. COBOL really hadn't come in quite yet. And one of the things that you did was everything that you did on a computer you had to do through what was called a punched card. And this is a big example of it, but they were called 5081s or Hollerith cards. And they were approximately this size. This is the size that they were. They're 7 3/8 by 3 1/4. And they would just have holes punched all over them for the numbers and then for the alphabet and for special characters. And they were 80 column cards about this size. Well, this served as your program, which you fed into the computer, and then you fed all your data in behind it, which was punched on these cards. And these cards would become worn over time, or let's just say that that data was no longer needed. So they'd get pitched, and they'd get pitched into these great big huge, almost like an oil drum. And there'd be thousands of these cards in there with all these beautiful holes punched in them. And this is an example of a for real card here containing somebody's data. So you can see all the marvelous holes punched in them. So, and they would be printed on one side, but then they would be blank on another. And they were manila. They were actually manila cards. And maybe that's where my love of manila came in. I don't know. But you turn them over and they would just be a blank manila card on the back, punched full of all these beautiful holes. So they looked real lacy. Well, I couldn't stand to see them in those barrels. And so I'd go fishing and I'd try and find the ones that had lots and lots of holes in them. And I came upon this idea of making wreaths. And so I would fold these up in a certain way and make wreaths out of them. And I just had so much demand for them because they actually turned out very, very pretty. I was just making wreaths for years. I was making wreaths as long as I still had access to the 5081s. But since they're no longer in use, we don't use this anymore. What I do now is I just make them out of tags, manila tags. Now these are considerably smaller. You can see this is a lot smaller than the original 5081, but it still works. Now you can use a manila tag in any size because they come in all sizes from very, very small to extremely large cards. The reason I like still using manila is because it holds up well in the weather, particularly if you're from a part of the country that has, winter. And paper can kind of get really limp hanging outside in the winter climate and stuff. But manila doesn't seem to do that bad. Even when it gets wet, it still is a little stiff. It doesn't get limp like regular paper does. So I still like making them out of manila. Obviously, they don't have all the little holes punched in them. I could, if I wanted to, get a hole puncher out and punch them, but that's just too much work. You know me, I got to keep it simple. So anyways, what I do is I just get a whole bunch of these manila cards together. And these right now are they're called shipping labels because they have the little tie on the end of it. So all I do is I just remove this tie, take these off and save this because you can always use this string on a card. You can, ink them up and dye them, and you can always use this string. It's a great piece of twine there. And because manila it tends to be a little stiff, what I do is I kind of work it around a little bit and try and I don't want to crease it. I want it to be kind of like curved. So I just use my finger to kind of work the manila around a little bit. And then once I feel like I've got it worked around, I'll just kind of bend the ends in and then just kind of push it together like you're making a little cone. And because these are tiny, I'm using my tiny attacher to staple it together in the back here and just put a staple in it. So what I do is I make up, 5,000 of these. No, I'm kidding. You don't have to make up that many, but you do have to make up a goodly amount. And so I just spend, in front of the TV or whatever, just making these things up till I think I've got a decent amount. And if not, I can always continue to make more. And you don't have to use manila. You could actually use cardstock and cut it into a rectangle. Oh, and tiny attacher is not working right now. Hold on, let me get this pulled out of there. I like using tiny attacher because these cards are so tiny, it actually goes in very nicely and I can staple it real well together. I'm probably running out of staples. Yeah, that's the problem. Okay, hold on. I'll be right back. Okay, tiny attacher's been fed and it's got staples in it. So once again, I just removed the tag. Now, not all manila tags come with this string on it. These are just called shipping labels. That's why it's on it, like I said before. Okay, so, just kind of work it around. If you're using regular stock paper, you might have to do this too because stock paper is heavy. You could actually use designer paper, some in some like Christmas colors or Christmas designs, and just make yourself up some rectangles. And you want a rectangle, not a square, so because you want it to have a elongated look to it like this does. It has a point on one end. We've curled it around. It has a point, and then you have a flat edge here. So square wouldn't really work. So you just would have to just make up some rectangle. And maybe 3x5 cards would work. 4x6 cards would work. Just anything that's a rectangular type shape. Okay, so I've got quite a few of these made up already, and what we need to do is we need to find a base to attach them to. So what I use is, remember this backing that we have from those pads of 12 by 12 designer papers that you can get like at Michael's and Joann's and stuff like that. And I saved these and we made a little booklet out of this last month by cutting this up. I'm going to make some circles out of this. And one of the easiest ways to make a circle, if you haven't got a protractor, is to use one of your strings from the card that you just took off, or any string if you don't happen to have manila cards or you're using stock paper, and just tie a loop in it and attach it to a pencil. Kind of guess where the middle of your paper is and just kind of draw. Hold it. And just kind of draw. And it kind of, I don't know if you can see that or not, but it just gives you a little circle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut that out because I need a circle to work with because I'm making a wreath. So I'll just cut this out, and it doesn't have to be exact. If you can do an exact circle, that's fine. If you can cut it exact, that's fine too, but it just has to be some kind of round shape. You could use, like a paper plate. Okay, so now I've got the circle cut out. And this is going to be the beginning of my wreath. But what I need to do is I need to cut a circle on the inside of this. So I'm just going to shorten this up a little bit. Try and find the center. Okay, and then I'm going to cut a circle on the inside here. And the reason that I'm doing that is because I need a means to get a stapler in to attach these. And I'm just going to do a couple layers for a craft knife so I can just get in here and start cutting. And once again, it doesn't have to be exact. You don't have to be equal distance all the way around, but if you can manage to do that, so be it. That's great. I just want to make sure I'm just building a frame is all I'm doing. Because once you get these things attached, it really doesn't matter. Just all you care about is a basic shape. Okay, so I got this one I'm cutting. Okay, I'm going to set this one aside, and then I'm going to cut this one. I need to have an opening in this one too. Okay, close enough. Okay, so I'm just going to cut this. And if you haven't got tiny attacher, regular stapler will work. I just like using tiny attacher because number one is a small little staple, and number two, it allows me to get into some tight places because it is so tiny. I don't recommend you go out and buy a whole bunch of stuff. I really prefer that we use things that we have around the house. But if you're going to make a purchase, I definitely would say go with tiny attacher. Okay, so now I've got these circles. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start putting my folded tags on. And I like to start with the pattern of 12, 3, 6, 9, and that helps with some even spacing. So I'm going to get a bigger stapler out. It doesn't look much bigger, but it actually has bigger staples in it. And I'm just going to attach these in the 12, the 6, and then the 3 and the 9. And get these attached up here. Like I said, it just, I'm just guesstimating. These are not exact. Close enough. Okay, so then once I have that done, then I'm going to come in the center here between these, and I'm only doing this so I can do some equal spacing. My OCD kind of kicks in, and I really like to see things symmetrical. Although I like to do things asymmetrical most of the time, I do like this process to be a little more symmetrical. So do you see how I did that? I put that in the center, and now I'm going to come back and I'm going to put another one here, center it as best I can, and then I'm going to put another one here. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same thing all the way around. Put this one down. And just keep building up this base like this. See how pretty the manila looks? Gosh, I love the way manila looks. Maybe this is where I did get my love of manilas, from these 5081s. They were so pretty with all the holes in them. Oh my gosh. And like I made this kind of small. You can see that the circle's small, but obviously you can make it as big as you want. Like I've made some wreaths that were like, oh, I don't know, 3 feet across or something. Just depends on where you want to hang it and how big you want it. Okay, so I just keep. And here in Arizona, obviously we have beautiful weather pretty much most of the time, except for, well, we have 2 seasons. We have hot and then not so hot. But we do get a rain in the wintertime too. And these tend to hold up pretty good when they're outside with that kind of moisture. And then in the humid areas in the wintertime, you don't notice it so bad in the wintertime. But they actually do hold up pretty good. I made a wreath for my mom when I was first making these. And being in Metro Detroit, I grew up around all over Detroit, but we spent my high school years out by the lakes off of Sylvan and Otter Lake, Cass Lake area. And when I made my mom her wreath, she probably had it for 10 years, and that's hanging outside in the Michigan winters. It'd get a little limp, but then you bring it back in and the paper will stiffen back up again. So I mean, they're pretty sturdy. Unlike cardstock, cardstock will hold up, but okay, so you see how we've got this one, and this is all pretty uniform now because of the way that we put it together. So now we're going to go with this next layer. And we're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to put our folded manila tags in the 12, 6, 3, 9 position, and then just going to fill them in. And just keep working our way all the way around. Now, some of my staples aren't going in real good, but you know what? I don't care. As long as at least one gets it, that's okay with me. And these are so pretty when they're all done. Now, when they're done, I mean, I like them kind of this plain manila look because I think it's a real pretty color for the holidays. However, you can spray paint them. I used to use Rust-Oleum. That's what I used to use. And then just like on the other one, I'm going to go in the center. And then I'm going to add these. Just because I want to make sure that I keep them pretty full looking. Oops. Okay, I ran out of staples. Be right back. Wow, got that one fed now. Gosh, these little staplers are hungry little things. So you see how this is going, okay? And I don't want to bore you while you watching how I do this. So maybe I'll just pause it and finish this up. Or speed it up. Maybe that's what I'll do. I decided to speed up this clip so you didn't have to watch it in real time. I think you see the process that I'm doing here. I'm putting these tags down evenly. I'm evenly spacing them. And by following the process that I am doing, by putting them at the 12, 3, 6, 9, and then putting the tags in between, and then filling in the spaces in between that, it gives a nice even look to the wreath that we're building here. And it's pretty pleasant on the eyes that way, I think. We got this one done. Now we're going to finish the last layer. Okay, I'm going to speed this last one up so you don't have to sit through watching me staple this. It's as bad as watching paint dry. Some of my staples didn't go all the way through, or they didn't, bend in the back. So if that ever happens, all I do is I just turn it over and press the little hooks down, and then, the staple's just fine. And I did the exact same thing here as what I did on all the other ones. I did the 12, 3, 6, and 9, and then I put the one in between. And because it's so much smaller, when I added the other ones to go in between all that, I kind of moved them down a little bit instead of being the exact same row, and it gave the illusion of another layer. So now we've got this one. We've got this one. And then we've got our first one. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to layer these. And when you're layering them, you don't want to lay them on top of each other. You kind of want to stagger them a little bit. And then generally what I do is I hot glue this down. And we'll get this hot glued down. And then this one will go on top here. And look at this wreath. Isn't this absolutely stunning? And look how pretty it looks just in the manila by itself. And then you put a pretty red bow in here, or you can put some pine cones or whatever kind of little Christmas decorations you want in the center here. You could spray this. You could spray it gold, silver, red, green, whatever. You could always, like I said, make this out of designer Christmas paper, so it's all, patterned. That would be a beautiful wreath also. So let me get these hot glued down and I'll be right back. The hot glue gun's ready and now we're going to glue them together. What I did was I had another piece of this cardboard and you can see it was smaller. It wasn't a 12-inch square. So I just cut it to fit the back here, and now I'm going to hot glue it in place. Now if you haven't got hot glue, you can use any kind of glue that you have. Matte medium works real good as a good glue, or Eileen's tacky, or whatever you kind of glue you like to use. And it's going to glue this in so I have a base for all of the other things to work with. Okay, glue that all in. Okay, now I'm going to put some hot glue around the edges here. So I can glue this in place. Now remember, when you put this down, stagger it, because you want it to be, you don't want all of these little points to line up. Now we're going to do this last one. And then we stagger this one as best we can and press it down and hold it in place. Okay, there we go, crafters. Let's see if I can zoom this out a little bit so you can see how nice and big this is. Let's see what that measures across. It's about a 16, 18 inch. This is a 15-inch ruler, so I'm going with about 16, 17 inches across wreath that we just made. And look how pretty it is, just left alone in the natural color here. Remember, this doesn't have to be for Christmas. You can make wreaths that are acceptable all year long for springtime, summertime, however you want to, decorate them up. But because we're approaching the holidays, I thought I would just do this as a holiday wreath. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to decorate it and I'll be back and show you the finished product. Okay, crafters, I'm back. I've got it all decorated up. I found this cute ribbon that I had. Isn't it cute? It's got little candy canes in it. How cute is that? So I made up a bow. And then this is just old potpourri that has lost its scent. And you can see that there's pine cones and chips of wood, a flower, and some curlicue things. And then this is just some of the string from the tops of these things. And I colored up, I sprayed it with, this is Color Bloom Gold Foil. So it has a real nice shimmer to it. Oh my gosh, the shimmer is incredible. I think you can see that. You can see how shimmery that is. Isn't that gorgeous? And then, just hot glued everything in place. And there you go. Got a cute little wreath. To hang it, all I did was I just wired some brass wire that I had through the back and just tied a loop in it. And now I've got a loop to hang it with. Isn't that sweet? And look how simple it was to do. Just using our shipping tags and old cardboard that we've saved, and then potpourri that I saved that's lost its smell. But it's still, it's real Christmassy looking and everything, and I knew I could use it. Isn't that sweet? Gosh, I love that. I'll take a couple pictures and put them in at the end also. So there you go, crafters. A cute, simple little project that you can do with shipping tags or designer paper or regular cardstock. Just cut it and make sure that you've got some kind of rectangle, not a square. And then we've got a pretty little wreath to hang in the house or outside. Doesn't make any difference. Okay, thank you so much for joining me on this segment of Kiss Keep It Simple Sylvia. And I hope that you'll join me again next week where we continue with our Christmas decorations or holiday decorations. And I'll see you back next week. Bye for now. Thank you.